Hi everyone. Notes 2.5 are on factoring trinomials by decomposition. So if you've noticed throughout this unit, we are learning how to undo all the multiplication that we're doing. That's what factoring pretty much is. So let's multiply this so we can see how this is related to factoring by decomposition. So the first thing I'm going to do is take this 3x that we have here and I'm going to distribute that through to this 2x minus 5. So it would look like this, 3x, and then in brackets, 2x minus 5. And remember, this is one of the ways that we've learned. You can also use FOIL, you can use the box, but I'm specifically talking about it this way to show you how this is going to relate to factoring by decomposition. And then my second term that has to get distributed to this 2x minus 5 is this 2. So I'm going to write plus 2, and then in brackets, I'm going to say 2x minus 5. And now I'm just going to go through and distribute everything through. So here, 3x times 2x is 6x squared. 3x times negative 5 is negative 15x. 2 times 2x is positive 4x. And then 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. And then here I can just see that these are like terms. Negative 15x plus 4x is negative 11x. And then I'll just copy down this 6x squared in front and this minus 10 in the back, and this is my final answer here. So we'll go back and talk about this shortly, but I want to talk about factoring by decomposition, and then we'll go back and look at this. So how to factor by decomposition. So we want to factor ax squared plus bx plus c by decomposition. And there's an example here, 6x squared minus 11x minus 10. So if you notice here, we've got ax squared is like the 6x squared, bx is like this negative 11x, and then c is like this negative 10. So here I can say that the a is 6, the b is negative 11, and that the c is negative 10. Okay? So according to our steps, it says find the product of a times c. So I'm going to take the a value, which we know is 6. I'm going to take the c value, which we know is negative 10, and I'm going to multiply those two values together. So a times c is 6 times negative 10, which is negative 60. Then step 2 says to list out the factors of AC. Let's put an absolute value sign here because I don't really want to think about the sign itself right now. I just want to know the factors of 60 and not negative 60. So we just want to find out what the factors are without the sign here. So some factors of 60, let's start from the beginning. We can do 1 times 60. It's divisible by 2. 2 times 30 will work. It's divisible by 3. 3 times 20 will work. It's divisible by 4. 4 times 15 will work. It's divisible by 5. 5 times 12 will work. And it's divisible by 6. 6 times 10 will work. It's not divisible by 7, and it's not divisible by 8 or 9. It is divisible by 10, but 10 is already in my chart, so I'm good to go for all my factors. Then step 3 says to choose the factors that have a sum of b. So here, our b value we know is negative 11, okay? So which one of these possible values could possibly give me a negative 11? And I can only get it from the 4 and the 15 if the 4 is positive and the 15 is negative. So then it says split bx into the two terms using the factors you choose. So I'm going to take the original expression and I'm going to split this up into, oh, and by the way, we can also say negative 15 plus 4 is negative 11. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to take these factors and I'm going to split up this negative 11x into negative 15x plus 4x. And then I'm just going to copy the 6x squared down and the minus 10 down. And now that I've done that, I can just factor by grouping. So here, my first term, or my first group is 6x squared minus 15x. 6 and 15 are both divisible by 3, and they have an x in common. When I factor that out, I get 2x minus 5. Then in my second group, I have 4x and negative 10. The leading coefficient is positive, so I'm going to factor out a positive value. And then 4 and 10 are both divisible by 2. They don't have any x's in common. I have 2x minus 5 left over. Okay? Now I can see there's a 2x minus 5 in common, so I'm going to factor that out. And then I've got 3x left over here and a 2 left over here. So 3x plus 2 is what I have here. And that's my final answer. Now, I just want to point something out to you right here. Everything that we did here is literally backwards from everything that we did here. So if you notice, we started here with the 6x squared minus 11x minus 10. That's the final answer down here. Then we broke up the 6x squared into negative 15x plus 4x. That's what we have up here, right? And by being able to break that up, we are able to factor this by grouping, and it brings us to this piece right here before we had distributed. And then seeing what's in common brings us back to the two binomials, whereas here we broke up the first binomial to distribute it to the other binomial. So it's the exact same thing. We're just working backwards. So let's try the following examples. So our first example here, we still need to multiply the a times the c, right? So here, the a value, let's write out what a, b, and c are. So a is 3, b is negative 10, and c is 8. So I want to multiply a times c. So I'm going to do 3 times 8, which is 24. Then I'm going to make a list of factors of 24. So I could do 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6, 5 doesn't work. So these are my factors right here. I'm trying to find a set of factors here that will give me this b value right here. And I can only get that from the 4 and the 6 if the 4 and the 6 are both negative. So once I've done that, I can now say 3x squared, and then I can split up this negative 10x right here into negative 4x and negative 6x, and then I can add the 8 to it. And now I can just go ahead and factor by grouping. So 3x squared minus 4x has an x in common. When I factor that out, I get 3x minus 4. Okay? In my second group, be really careful. The leading coefficient is negative. So I'm going to factor out a negative value. And what's in common with negative 6 and 8 is a negative 2. When I factor it out of the first term, I get a positive 3x. When I factor it out of the second term, I get a negative 4. And they both have 3x minus 4 in common. So I can factor that out. They have a 3x minus 4 in common. So when I factor that out, in the first term, I have an x left over. In my second term, I have a minus 2 left over. And this is my final factored answer. Okay, in the next one, pay really close attention to this one. So here, the a value is 2, the b value is a 1, and the c value is negative 28. Notice how there's no variables in a, b, and c. They're just numbers. So I have to multiply a times c. And the a value is 2, the c value is negative 28. So 2 times negative 28 is negative 56. So I'm going to make a list of factors of 56. So let's start at the beginning. 1 times 56 will work. 2 times 28 will work. 56 is not divisible by 3, so I won't try 3. It is divisible by 4. I get 14. It's not divisible by 5 or 6, but it is divisible by 7, and I get 8. And then it's also divisible by 8, but it's already in our chart. So this is my full complete list. Which one of these sets of values can also give me this 1 right here? I can only get a 1 from a 7 and an 8 if the 7 is negative and the 8 is positive. So I'm going to split this up into a positive 8 and a negative 7. But do you see this xy? I have to have that xy in there because 8xy minus 7xy have to give me 1xy. I have to have xy's here so they collect together to give me this. Then I'm just going to copy the rest of this down. Okay, and then I'm going to group my terms together. So I've got 2x squared plus 8xy. They both have a 2x in common. When I factor that out, I end up getting x plus 4y. And then here, in this group right here, there's a negative leading coefficient. So I'm going to factor out a negative 7. Because 7 goes into 28, it's a factor. And they also have a y in common. When I factor it out of negative 7xy, I have positive x. When I factor it out of negative 28y squared, I have a positive 4y. And I can see there's an x plus 4y in common with both of these terms. So I can factor that out. When I factor it out of my first term, I have a 2x. When I factor it out of my second term, I have a minus 7y. And this is my final answer here.